Hello guys, welcome back to the Contra run. Driving all cars part number 28. The Chevrolet Camaro RS 1969. That's what we are looking at here. Full stock version which you see here. The reason I'm not in headquarters is because we have a few specs to test with this car. It is a full normal spec, which means it doesn't have any of the extreme specs. It doesn't have a monster spec, a drift spec or a drag, but it has all the other specs. So we are dealing with street, dirt, performance, rate and circuit. The sound is pretty nice. Interior look seems to be okay. Dials and numbers, I still didn't find the time yet to check if they have fixed it with the latest maintenance, but from all the cars that I'm testing lately, the last couple of hours and days, all the dials and numbers are pretty much visible in daylight. So I don't know. I have to check which cars were it. BMW M5, X6, cars like that. I think they had a problem with not being able to look in the dashboard or hardly see anything there in daylight. We'll take a look at that later when I have time. I know it is something easy to do, but yeah, it's always something I forget it and then I think, oh right, I should have done that. But yeah. Anyway, driving towards the 1 mile drag and see where it can do here. This is a full stock version, so we can't tell much about it, except that the response or the body itself seems a bit heavy, or feels a bit heavy at least, and which usually makes the response a bit not that good, but we'll see. I have driven some of the specs with this car, and because we had to in a time attack. 1969 Camaro next to a 2010. Why not? And then the possibilities in this game, if you compare those two, then the 1969 might just be a little bit better. Because the 2010 is not that good in any of the specs, and 1969 is in some. Let's start with the 1 mile drag. Full nitro bar at the first checkpoint, which is the quarter mile. Put a spoiler on there. Other than that, original or official colors and official rims. That's how I have most of my cars, so also with this one. There are some colors available, so I had 6 different colors available to put on the full stock in the 5 different specs. So street spec. That's already usable in this game. What do I mean by usable? If there is a summit qualifier with classic cars and you need to do a speed trap, you probably have to go for this one. It has a decent top speed, you can even call it good, and the acceleration is not that bad either. It suffers a bit from Wheelspin, but not as worse as in the other specs you will see later. But that's probably the main problem with this car. But still managed to do a 26.370, which is about the 3rd time we did on this track, I think. Yep. We did a 25.7 yesterday with Skyline, but he kind of smoked all the cars that we have tested here so far. So this one has a pretty decent acceleration, although we were suffering from a little wheel spin. The handling is a bit of a problem in the street spec to make it a great street spec, but it can be used. It has the acceleration, it has a top speed, just the handling is a bit of a problem. Dirt spec, that is a completely different story. That is just a bit too slow. It is not comparable with the street, and it's, well, it slides all over the place as most of the specs with this car do, but this one, no, not that good. 27.8 we have here, which is, well, amongst the slower ones. Most of the dirt specs here do a 27 on this mile drag. That is until we tested the RT, the rough yesterday, and we did a 26.2. 3 or 4 in 26 seconds and all the rest in 27, and this is a high 27, so no, not that good in dirt acceleration wise. The rest we will see later. Second gear, wheel spin. Third gear was okay. Gonna hit the nitro. Still wheel spinning. Yeah. It's getting worse with the wheel spin, isn't it? And of course, in an acceleration test, that does cost you time-wise. Fastest time here, 22.8, but we're not going near that. Slowest time, 25.2 from the Cadillac Eldorado. So this is 24.3. I don't think we can call that good. It's more below average, let's call it that. If we call the 23-second cars above average, then this one is below, with a 24.3. Then we go to the race spec. We'll see. Doesn't suffer that much from the wheel spin because it's heavier probably, which might make it good, but we'll see. .243, which seems to be a common thing here on this Bonneville salt flat. They kinda limit at 243 for the race specs, although some of them have a higher speed. 29.9, fastest time tested here so far in a race spec. Most of the cars did it 30 seconds, the buggy did it 31, this one 29.9. And that already brings us to the end conclusion, sorta. I know it's a bit early for that, but the race spec is the best used for this car. It probably lacks a bit of top speed to compare it with a Mustang 2011 or a Silverado, which are considered the better race specs, but it's coming close. This one is still in fourth gear, spinning the wheels, and that's a big problem, of course, for a circuit spec especially. And the result is also, well, what it is. I've tested about, 10-15 circuit specs so far. 24.1 is the slowest of the lot. And that is mainly to do with the wheel spin. So the wheel spin is sort of coming back in the different specs, although it's kinda okay in the street spec, and it doesn't suffer from it at all in the race spec. Probably because that's heavier. More pressure on the wheels, or I don't know, but for some reason. A bit of a mixed car, isn't it? The race spec is the fastest accelerating that we've tested here so far. The circuit spec is the slowest that we've tested here so far. This thing, street spec, we are back now, and yeah, as you will see, the handling is... it has a bit of a slow response, and it kind of oversteers a bit too much, which yeah, makes you lose time in every corner, sorta. And also that will kind of come back with the other specs. If that car wasn't there, we would have made that corner for sure, so the brakes are not that bad either. They're not that good yet, we can make it a Pro or a Plus, but they're decent. Little tap on the brakes makes it oversteer very easily, and that is a bit of a problem for time attacks and things like that. But it doesn't make that big of a deal if you talking about speed traps, because speed traps is usually long straights towards a time point where the speed matters. So if the speed trap doesn't have too much corners where you kind of, well, slide through, then this thing is to use for classics. Had a few classic qualifiers in the summit already, and sometimes there is a speed trap, and if we need a street spec, then you have the choice between the Camaro 2010, Mustang 2011, and a few other American cars which have a street spec. If it's classic, of course, then their options are even lower and worse. So this one is not bad. Not bad for classic qualifiers, it's not bad for American qualifiers to use in a speed trap if you need a street spec. I think I already done 2 speed traps with this thing when the choices were limited. Then this one is definitely an option. It's just a bit of a shame that it suffers a bit from the wheel spin situation. It's kind of okay in the street spec. Meanwhile, I didn't mention it, but the top speed is pretty good. Of course, otherwise it's no point in advising it for a speed trap, but it goes over 360 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good for a street spec. But the response is a bit slow, as you could see, and that's also why I hit the car and didn't dive in between those things. And if you throw it around a bit too much, yeah, then you go into an oversteer situation. And that's probably the second minus for this car. The plus, a top speed, the minus, the wheel spin, and it oversteers a bit too much. But like I said, it is okay with the street spec. It will not be so okay with the performance and the circuit spec. And especially for the circuit spec, that is kinda a bit of a miss. Otherwise that would be a pretty damn good car. I'm going to remove the world spot and the names here, so that we don't see all the players' names flickering around, and also not start doing skill test while we are testing a car. So street spec, pretty fast acceleration, can be used in a speed trap, but due to the oversteer situation handling, if you are used to oversteer and you can handle it a bit, that makes it a bit of a different story. Then you can use this car in street spec. Everybody's saying Skyline, BRZ, Mini, all that's all good. But if you put those in a hand of drivers which are not that good, then also that are average cars. That's how it goes with the top cars. We need top cars, only top cars if they have a decent driver. So this thing can beat them. That's probably not going to be the case with the performance spec. The performance spec, the average acceleration is already sort of a minus. You can compare it to other performance specs, and the best steps are still to come in this series. So 24.3 on the mile is not that great. The brakes are decent again, but your wheel spin oversteer situation gets worse, at least worse than in the street spec. It's going to rain here, that doesn't improve things, but it's not due to the rain that it oversteers so much, just the way the car handles. And in a lower gear, if you touch the nitro again, you're going to be confronted with the wheel spin, and resulting in that the nitro or NOS doesn't really help you, because you get more power and that's more wheel spin, so not really getting anywhere. There are more cars out there which suffer a bit from the wheel spin situation, but this one, yeah, it kind of matters in the performance of these cars. This is one of those that really suffers it. But again, handling on its own it's kind of okay. Jumps and all that, he does it pretty smooth. It has the top speed. With the nitro here, we are going towards 400 kilometers an hour, which is good for a performance spec on this section. The top of the lot might go over 400, but this is coming close. And it is spinning again, and then yeah, it has a pretty decent acceleration while you are driving it, but because it has a wheel spin, you're losing time on the start line and coming out of corners. Seen it mainly in the lower gears, you're suffering from that. A bit of a shame, if you ask me. If they could fix the wheel spin on this car, it's not only the performance but also street and circuit, then this could be a pretty decent car in this game. Which it's not really now, because it's spinning wheels half the time, especially in the lower gears. So street performance, then street is probably the better one, because this one is suffering more from oversteer and more from spinning wheels. Circuit, yeah, it only gets worse. This one, on the acceleration test, it was still spinning wheels almost up to 5th gear, which is a bit of a problem. If you only have 6 and 7 gears to make up, that's some sort of body kit, and that is also makes it a bit of stiff usually in this game. Don't know why they put like body kits on circuit specs, but yeah, it is what it is. It's still raining. Of course, the surface is a bit wet here now, but nevertheless, if you do this on a dry, the car will react sort of the same. Might be a bit exaggerated now, looking at it, but brakes are kind of okay for this one. But yeah, the problem with this one is that the acceleration isn't that superb. On the contrary, if it's we've tested about 15 circuit specs, and this is the slowest one so far on the 1 mile track. The brakes are pretty good. It kind of dives into corners, but bit too much on the throttle or too early on the throttle, and yeah, kind of lose it, goes into an oversteer situation. With little slides every time, which means it's always a little corrections you have to do, so you're not really driving the car, but you're more like fighting the car, and that some of those things come back with circuit specs, not only with the Americans, also some of the Europeans have it, or the Asians as well. So, but also here, top speed, not an issue with this going over 420 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good at this section for a circuit spec. I haven't used this one on a speed trap yet, but it might be an option. Since it is doing 422 on that downhill, it's probably going to do 430 plus if you do it with some slipstream. So who knows? Not so sure if it's the diffuser that makes those jumps so big, but might have to remove that and see if it is still the same. But the body kit thing makes it a bit stiff, and acceleration not that good. Top speed is okay. Handling is a bit tricky, and acceleration not that good, which is kinda makes it an average circuit spec if we are dealing with corners and stuff like that. It might be good on ovals, I have no idea. I'm not a fan of ovals, so don't spend much time on the circuits in this game. Circuit tracks, not my cup of tea, and definitely not ovals. It's an American thing, and no offense, but it's steering to the left for 500 laps or whatever, and it's boring as hell. Moving to nothing apparently, and that is exactly what's going to happen for the rest of this video here. So I had to stop again because I was getting the black screen situation again. So we were moving to the dirt. That's what I am now. I switched to the dirt and kinda continue the story with the second video. Sometimes happens you get into a black screen if you restart the same free drive challenge over and over again, like we are doing every time with the acceleration tests, and yeah. So the dirt test. I am thinking the circuit has a bit of a problem left or right, but this probably is the worst spec of the 5. 27.8 on the acceleration test, that's also not that superb. There are only 1 or 2 cars slower than this one on the acceleration test so far, so I don't know. I'm gonna watch the speedometer a bit as well, because I think this one does not really have superb high top speed. The better dirt spec can do 315, 320, and I'm not so sure you're gonna make that with this one. But we might see at the end, at the downhill section. This first part, yeah, well, for most of the dirt packs it is not really a problem, so also not really expecting big problems with this one. Jumps, landings seem to be pretty smooth. But it just, yeah, it feels a bit slow. 280, although not that slow, but I already used a couple of times the NOS or the Nitro, and it also seems to be not that powerful. You win a few kilometers an hour if you hit it, and while some are winning 15, 20 or more. First corner, and yeah. We already slide out, so I had to use back on track. The performance spec oversteered a bit too much, and it's the same with this one. If you throw it into a corner, you immediately go into a slide, and some of those slides are pretty big and not that easy to control. Which means you are going to go behind of cars that can take corners better. So you have to catch up. How do you do that? With a decent acceleration, which is problem number 2 for this car. In dirt spec, it doesn't really have a good acceleration. And then it has to come from top speed to catch up. Also there, not that superb. It's not bad, but there are cars going faster. So that's kind of 3 things that you're always behind. You lose it in the corners, you lose it on acceleration, and you lose it on top speed. Which, in my opinion, makes this dirt car average or even below average. Wheel spinning as well. This is one of those cars that suffering from the wheel spin in all the specs, and a bit of a shame. Except for one, probably. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit too hard on the dirt spec, but yeah, I know what is still to come, and if you compare those off-road specs, dirt or rate, we have to test the rate, but the rate is one of the best in the game, and kind of surprisingly that the dirt spec is not even coming close to that. But yeah, then again, if you think about it, the Mustang, probably the best rate spec, is also not that good in dirt. So I don't know. Just a matter of waiting on the finish and forget about this dirt spec, because no, not a record breaker. With slow on acceleration, it slides all over the place. Even the brakes are not that superb, so no, you're not winning it anywhere compared to the competition, and that's a bit of a problem. Wheel spinning. Push the Nito in 4th gear, and I'm wheel spinning. All things indicating that you are going to lose time compared to competition. 270. I'm hitting the nitro. We go to 285 something, 290. I don't have any NOS anymore, so no. I can't make much more out of it than it is. Maybe on a long straight you might go over 300, probably. But the top of the dirt is doing 315, 320, or even over that. Fifth gear wheel spin this time. Yeah, and I mean, didn't make too much big mistakes. We have a time of 5:31. The better dirt specs go under 5 minutes here, so no. No, forget about the dirt spec. Let's move on to which is, well, don't have to think about it. Wanted to say probably, but yeah, you can forget about that word because it is the best spec for this car. Camaro 1969 in rate spec. It doesn't suffer from the wheel spin like the dirt and the other specs do. It has the best acceleration on the mile that we have tested so far. Let me check for comparison. I haven't tested Silverado yet, so we don't know for sure that it's going to be the fastest of the lot, but Mustang, best rate spec considered by many, did a 30.6. on the 1 mile drag, while this Camaro can do 29.9. So it wins it on acceleration. But the problem is the top speed. The Mustang has a good top speed. This one not bad either, but it's a few kilometers short, and if you have longer straights on a track, you're always a few meters behind every time. So I've mentioned in a video where I was testing the Mustang. Mustang is probably the best, and competition coming from the Silverado. So those two probably top 2. And then yeah, it's a matter of tracks and circumstances, and but then this one is a player as well. And on some tracks this might be a top 2 car as well in rate. It takes jumps pretty smoothly. It just goes a bit sideways sometimes while you're in the air, but all in all it's easy to correct, and you can get it straight again before the landing, and it is smoothly going over the lot here. I have been messing around a bit with the Mustang when I was testing that here. Did a time of 5 minutes 01, something like that. And if I'm not mistaken, we are going to go under 5 minutes with this one. Kinda make some funny moves while it's in the air, or kinda lift off, but nevertheless you land on the 4 wheels and you keep on going. It has the acceleration, so you will get back to speed in no time. Let's call it a bit of a tricky handling, but once you get used to it, this car is not bad. I know there are players out there who really like this car. I know there are players out there who really don't like this car. So it's a matter of opinion, but also a matter of feeling, I guess. You have a certain feeling with certain cars, and then people like me can do videos like this, but you have to sort of test them for yourself, and if you don't have the feeling with the car that I have, then you might just have a different opinion. That's how it goes. But in general, and we come back to that in the next videos, in general I'm not a big fan of the American cars in this game. Well, for the simple reason that most of them slide all over the place. The handling is not that good. They have the power as usual, and the handling is not that good. The Camaro 2010 was not that good. The Mustang was kind of exceptional, seeing it well in that way, that it had the rate spec. But overall, well, maybe not the Challenger 69, but overall I kinda like the older style Americans. I don't find many of the 2010, 2011, 2015 versions that good in this game. The older ones are not that bad. Not all of them, but some of them. Like this one, 1969 Camaro in rate spec is pretty good. 457 we did here. Mustang with a 501, but well, we pushed the Mustang a bit more, flying all over the place because it was considered the best. We tested it a bit harder. If you're going really time attack without making mistakes, keep it clean, the Mustang will be faster, but this one won't be far behind. Which brings us back to the dirt spec to repair, and that's probably the worst one. So we have seen that street, which can be used in speed traps for classic qualifiers or for American qualifiers, even if you need a street spec. The dirt is not that good, even well, not even average in my opinion. Performance not that good either. The circuit, it's really suffering from the circuit, from the wheel spin, and the rate is next to the Mustang and Silverado. Probably it's at least top 5 in rate spec, let's put it that way. To some it is even top 2 or top 3, but top 5 it is for sure. I will see you guys in the next one, and bye for now.